Hey guys, it's Sleepy Reader. I've just recently finished reading 14 issues of Irredeemable in a row, leading up to the final issue, issue 37. I read some of the issues digitally and some in the physical format. But now I've read the entire 37 issue run. The earlier part of it a while ago, but the last 14 issues in about the last 3 days. And it's like having been in this long, disturbing dream about superheroes. Irredeemable is really good, but it's really disturbing, and it's all, in a way, it's all one long story. It just never stops. And it has kind of a soap opera kind of endless cliffhanger after cliffhanger after, and twist after twist after twist after twist, and new bizarre ideas sprinkled throughout. So it's a little hard to get a beat on. For people who aren't really aware of Irredeemable, the basic idea is that there's this Superman-like character named the Plutonian on an Earth full of superheroes. He's a member of a superhero team, kind of like the Justice League, and he turns bad. He cracks. He turns totally evil. He wipes out Star City, the city that he was the protector of, like Superman's. It's as if Superman destroys Metropolis, millions of people, and then he destroys Singapore, and he randomly kills other people, and he's hunting down all his ex-superhero friends, and he seems to be totally evil, and he used to be totally good, and no one can figure out why. And the first portions of the series have the remaining superheroes trying to hunt down clues as to what's happened to Irredeemable. I mean, to the Plutonium. He's irredeemable after having killed millions of people. And as they try to hunt down clues of what's going on with the Irredeemable, they find out some about Irredeemable, but they find out a lot about their fellow superheroes. So they're digging up dirt on each other all the time, and Irredeemable is knocking them off still. People die in this book. Civilians die, superheroes die, villains die. People are being killed, and it's often quite vicious. But it's all illustrated in kind of a retro art style. Let's see. Of course, I won't be able to find the greatest examples of it. But it looks somewhat modern, particularly because of the coloring. But it also has it harkens back to a bit of the feel of the 80s and the 70s, and you can imagine that these are all the kind of these are a kind of warping and twisting of the kind of adventures that Superman and other DC heroes may have had back then. A very clean art style, and yet with disturbing things happening all the time. So that's really cool. And it's hard to know even where to begin with all the wild ideas that Mark Waid threw in here. He's got things like an insane alien who can punch. When he punches people, he sends them back in time a minute or two. He's got the Superman figure's biggest villain, his Lex Luthor, is an evil genius who can project his mind into other bodies. And this evil genius is in love with the Plutonian. It's Lex Luthor madly in love with Superman. He wants a physical relationship with him. And at one point he takes over his brain-dead sidekick. At another point he is this robot creature who... Anyway, this Modius character, his biggest arch enemy, constantly reappears in different forms and is still, obsessed with his love of of Plutonian. And it does that. Even that doesn't capture how creepy it is, how creepy his love is and his obsession, and how well Mark Waid, the writer, captures that. So I've probably done a bad job of trying to explain it. But anyway, so this tale that begins after the ultimate superhero has gone bad, and which makes him more evil than any other evil. I mean, I felt more sunk into superhero evil, or supervillain evil, than I ever had before in reading Irredeemable, because you feel at times what he feels, his sort of anger at humanity and his anger at all these people he's helped. And maybe we've all felt at times anger at people, secretly feel anger when we do good and our good deeds aren't appreciated enough, or even though we're doing good, we're being criticized, or something like that. So he's pushed that to the extreme, and slowly through the 37 issues, we learn more and more details of how Plutonian was raised and who he really is. We get eventually an exploration of how he could have these powers. I mean, if you think of, and I think maybe the Plutonian's powers are maybe even more than Superman's in some ways. But even if you think of Superman's powers, they can't just be explained by him being an alien from another planet. And Mark Waid really runs with that. How could he be that powerful and be able to do that many things that defy physics and go beyond any physics we could understand? And he comes up with kind of an explanation for that kind of works. And he beautifully unwraps the onion of how really this perfect good superhero was, in a way, always screwed up and always perfectly kind of evil waiting on the inside. And it makes so much sense the way he does it. So it's all one story in a way, one sort of endless story of twists and turns. At one point, they seem to be irredeemable by calling in these really super powerful evil aliens who have been given access to conquer the rest of the galaxy or the rest of the universe in return for taking care of Irredeemable. I start thinking of the supervillain superhero as Irredeemable, but his name is Plutonian. So they take care of Plutonian, but they turn out not to be able to handle him, and he's deep. He doesn't even know where he is. He's deep in his own fantasies, but he's too dangerous for them to handle, so they take him to an intergalactic insane asylum that's in a planetoid in the middle of a sun. And then to escape it, Plutonium and some fellow super insane aliens have to go down through the circles, like the circles of hell in Dante, down through the circles of the madhouse in the middle of a sun to find the teleporter at the middle of the sun to escape. And that's only a little bit of just the craziness of this book. So if you like sort of superheroes done to the extreme, not just of extreme of the violence and evil, but extreme of the sort of wacky science fiction fantasy ideas, this would be for you. And if you can't stand things with little plot holes and little logic flaws, then this is not for you, because sort of in the way of those old Supermans and other DC comics, there isn't, if you examine things closely, there isn't a lot of logic. 1 minute someone can defeat him and the next minute they can't, and things are not well enough defined, and what the people's powers are is not well enough defined. One person apparently can bring stories to life, but then it turns out they can bring people back from the dead, but so there's an afterlife here, but what kind of afterlife is it? A lot of the heroes' powers are not totally clear what they can do, and that kind of thing. So you have to be kind of accepting of that and just go with Mark Waid with it all. On the cover of the final issue, issue 37, if you look closely, I guess there were 3 covers, but this cover says, Mark Waid is evil. And I was afraid that the twist at the end would be that the heroes, or not the hero, the protagonists would meet their creator, Mark Waid, sort of like way back when Animal Man met Grant Morrison. And I was afraid that that would be the twist at the end. But there's actually a different twist at the end, and it's kind of cheesy, but it kind of makes sense, and it's fairly satisfying. I'd say at the very end, I still felt like I wanted a little more explanation of the psychology of this super evil superhero. But we've gotten so much, and it's so rich, and I think I can imagine in a year or two going back and reading all 37 issues and really enjoying it all over again, and maybe following some of the twists and turns some more. I don't know if anyone else out there has been following Irredeemable, but anyway, I got a great kick out of reading so much of it all at once, but also kind of that kind of hungover from a weird dream feeling also. So talk to all of you soon. Happy comic book reading.